Yeah, so I got involved shortly after the pitch. I sadly wasn't involved too much in that process, but had a fairly good idea of what was going on at the time. I mean, it was quite a big thing for the whole studio to be on. So a lot of the strategy had kind of been done beforehand. We'd added like our parts to that as well. So we brought in like the we'll make it stuff, and you know, we had our visual ideas as well at that point. So I kind of I came in after that. We had to do a little bit of like hand holding, and then we just leaped into the creative. So from there on in, it was a case of making a lot and kind of working with this proposition, that loose proposition, I suppose, at that stage of we'll make it. We just made a lot at that point. Lots of quick sprints over a short amount of time, refining, coming up with new ideas. Every week we'd meet with the client, see what they thought, and slowly kind of pushed it in the direction that it is in today. It's hard to say, because every week I think we felt like there was something solid. You know, so I think every week we'd go back to them thinking, that's it, we've got it now. You know, this is the one, this is the look for the Premier League next year. And then the following week we'd look back and say, what were we thinking? That was so naive. And so that stuff, I think, just came really gradually. Maybe you'd get, your typeface to a point 1 month, and you'd say, okay, that's it. And then you'd think your logo was working alongside it. And then, the next week, maybe that would fall into place. So it did take a long time, but bit by bit, it all came together. I think, to be honest, it was at the end of December when the whole thing really fitted together. Yeah, the lion was key at that point. We'd gone through various other options earlier on about what it could be, but we knew it had to be the lion. We'd done fairly extensive research with fans, and I think we'd asked around 2,000 fans at that point, and the feedback we got was that the lion's face was where we needed to be. So there, it was about drawing so much at that point and thinking, okay, it starts off face on. Do we just adapt what they've got? And then we're kind of like referring back to our proposition and thinking, okay, this needs to look more positive. It needs to be more friendly. So we tilted it to the one side. I remember when that came, actually, and it was for a long time it was just face on, and then there was a little shift, and then it's just the subtle angles, like where does its chin sit? Is it looking up? So it's hard to say exactly how many, but I mean certainly in the hundreds. Yeah, and then even right at the end, the final lion had several tiny little changes that you might not even notice, but they're all there. I think it was probably there fairly early on. We knew it needed to be updated to sit in this world, and it's interesting with the Premier League because you've got to sit it alongside fairly traditional badges, and a lot of those badges stem from maybe the flags or the coats of arms of particular towns or sectors of those towns. So they've got a huge history, and so we knew it was going to sit in that world. But I think we saw that it had to move away from that, and it had to kind of move away from being too traditionally English as well, because what this is a global brand now. It speaks to people all around the world. So to sit it in that world didn't feel right for us. So we kind of knew that from the beginning. But of course, there was always that to look at and to inspire and to refer to as well. I think that was one of the scariest things at the beginning, is knowing that it had to tick all these boxes. So we knew that it had to work in motion from the off. We knew that it had to work small and mobile. We also knew that they do all these events abroad. It's got to look great there, and we've got to come up with this suite of assets that's gonna span all of that. So it was really difficult, and I think you go about it through a means of just simplification every time, until you get to a point where you think, okay, that's actually something there, and we just need to bring like the emotion into it. So I think it got to that point, the lion got to that point, the brand got to that point. We got there with the type, we got there with the pattern, and it was just the final moment with the lion we'd simplified it. We knew it was working in various environments, but it was just that final touch of bringing the emotion in. And that was something that was difficult and actually took, way longer than we thought. But it was those important bits that give it that sort of sense of emotion when you look at that line. It's certainly the biggest project I've ever worked on. So to see that happen to something that I was so close to is quite hard to take. It's quite an experience, seeing something so heavily criticised. But one, I think the rigour that we go through here at DesignStudio means that you leave the project knowing that you've done the right thing, and everything that you've done is a result of rigorous research and is always put together by a great talented team around you. So when that stuff happens, you can feel a little insecure, but you know that everything has its reason. And also you can tell yourself as well that a lot of people are just shouting for the sake of it and looking to get a comment, in a top thread of a feed or something. So there's always that. And actually really when you step back away from the negative comments, the overall reaction was really positive. I wanted to work on something my whole life that I could sit on a bus and hear people talking about behind me and know that I've impacted their life in some way, whether, negatively or positively. And I think this was the classic example of that. And that for me is what, doing good design is all about, is having an impact on the world in some way.